What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are getting these podcasts, whenever time you're listening to this, whether you're on the way to work, whether you've finished work and you've decided to chuck this on, whether you're 2-3 weeks late, it doesn't matter. Glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we are going to be talking about a very interesting topic. Reason why I've sort of decided to speak on this is because of the fact that I've seen the scandals happen quite often now, as of late, especially when it comes to the NBA and certain players, those being Malik Beasley and Terry Rozier, who have been currently under investigation for some potential betting scandals. So I really wanted to talk about betting as a whole, and how it kind of affects athletes, players, etc. across the board, and sort of dive deep into that. Something that's not really talked about on podcasts as much, but when the scandals and obviously when these events do happen, a lot of people are quick to jump on it and put in a, I guess, report or a storyline. But I think a lot goes more into just the player or the athlete betting on there. And when I do talk about these things, it's not to say that what they're doing is correct and they shouldn't be punished for it. It just seems as though there's a bit of things that are kind of flawed in the system, especially when most of the leagues now are heavily sponsored by these betting companies. But before I go on to all that jazz, I thought I'd kind of update the latest and greatest sporting news that's occurred. By greatest, I would say the performance from the St Kilda Saints in the AFL. Coming back from 46 points against Demons. And if you're a Melbourne fan, I know a few. If you are listening, mate, that's rubbish. Like that's embarrassing. You can't. And I've seen the Wizards lose by 35 in basketball, but down 46 or up 46 and dropping that to St Kilda of all teams who don't really have a strong track record is quite crazy. And it's quite funny because with about 40 seconds to go, they were up by 6 points. And you have Bailey Fritsch, who's a forward line player, down back, getting absolutely speckied on by who is. I'm a Collingwood fan and I love Nick Dacos, but I can't go past on what Nazai is doing right now. He's unbelievable. Takes a specky right on Fritsch's head, kicks it straight through the middle, and ties the game with 8 seconds to go. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, this is 100% going to be a draw. And then they get called for the 666 rule. And for those that don't know what that is basically when there's a goal that occurs in AFL, teams have to set up 6 midfielders, 6 defenders, and 6 forward players. Melbourne fully stuffed that up. I think added an extra player down back. And it was a free kick to, obviously, St Kilda. They left the same player that just scored on them and has hit 33 disposals on him before that, making it 34, obviously, open. Nazaya is literally free inside the forward 50 from the midfield. No one's tagged him. No one's marked on him. There's no forward line players in St Kilda. All of them are injured at the moment. And basically, he has a chance to pretty much win the game with any score. And albeit he just hits it straight down the middle. So Nazaya wins the game for St Kilda with a straight through the middle kick, eating the hearts of Melbourne. Down 46, end up winning by 6. So they scored a total of 52 points in that quarter, which was just unbelievable. And yeah, get the victory. And I think Melbourne's finished. St Kilda have probably played their grand final because they're not playing finals footy. But it was something that I wanted to talk about because I don't talk about footy much, and I love talking about footy, and I love footy. And that was probably the highlight moment of the round. Besides probably Jezza kicking 11 on North Melbourne, who I don't even know how they're still an existing football club, to be honest. And Nick Dacos just being Nick Dacos, who's, pretty much on lock to win the Brownlow, which is great for me to hear. Nazaya and I think St Kilda take the cake here on what was a incredible comeback in a round that was full of rivalries. Like you had all the interstate rivalry matches this week, and this overshadowed it. A irrelevant two Victorian teams that are not making the finals game to top off the round in the last game as well for Sunday Arvo, which is normally the graveyard game. Quite amazing and something to talk about. What unfortunately wasn't amazing was the passing of Hulk Hogan. And a lot of people in the wrestling universe and community towards the end of his tenure were not massive fans of Hulk Hogan due to his racial remarks and his controversial takes. But in saying that, if you take that away, no one's perfect, obviously, and he did make his mistakes. He was a pioneer of wrestling. And look, I wasn't around to know Hulk Hogan. I was not even probably in my dad's balls, but he literally changed the pop culture and the landscape of wrestling to what it is today. Something built on characters, being able to just provide entertainment for people in a time where there was a lot of war and issues going on in America as well. That was a real modern day superhero for people in that entertainment industry and for people in the United States. So for him to pass away is extremely sad. I know he was really sick, but you never really expect someone to pass away in a week that had some pretty rough fallings as well. We've a lot of people have passed away this year, but we had Ozzy Osbourne that passed away, I think, like 2 days ago, which was also sad. And then, sorry for the lack of respect, probably should have researched it, but a pioneer in jazz as well that passed away on the same week. It's just really sad. And we're here talking about Hulk Hogan, his real name, Terry Bollea. And yeah, it's great that obviously people have gone around and WWE have given him a tribute, but it's going to be really hard to think about wrestling and not think that Hulk Hogan will just make an appearance here and there and he's actually passed away. It's a shame. And on the same year that it looks as though John Cena is going to finish up his year as well soon. So, yeah, really unfortunate for wrestling. I'm a massive wrestling fan. I am actually in the stage of recording another episode, main eventing on the main event show every week. So if you guys are keen to check that out, feel free to do so. It's on the WWE podcast. It's called the WWE podcast, and I have episodes there every single Monday. I've been meaning to talk more about wrestling on this podcast as well. Maybe something that I want to do on the side as well, because at the moment, I think that's my craze until probably when NFL starts. That's the kind of craze that I have at the moment. Obviously, footy season's ramping up. We've got the Premier League basically starting in 2 weeks. And before I go on a ramble, yeah, there's a lot going on. But I just got announced as well that, and I love my fantasy sports, Supercoach is going to be introducing the Premier League. And for me, this is amazing because the old FPL, the normal Premier League app using that fantasy was just rubbish. Like there was no just goal contributions. If you didn't score or assist or you didn't keep a clean sheet, so basically if you're just a hardworking midfielder, you weren't rewarded points. Now the new Supercoach system has 22 different scoring points, so different types of ways you can obtain and retain points as well. So if you are a person that likes extra stats or more advanced stats, then having this Supercoach app is going to be more beneficial to you. If you're someone that's not really into the stats and really want to just focus on getting players that score, keep clean sheets, by all means, stay on the FPL app. But I'm definitely moving over to Supercoach. We've got draft and classic leagues lined up. And if it's anything like AFL with classic, where we can potentially trade and move money around, then I'm going to have to learn it because I really tried Supercoach Classic and I sucked at it. So got to learn how the money works, got to learn how break evens work. For those that do know about Supercoach will understand what I'm saying. If you don't know, then I'm sorry. But essentially that's going to be involved. That's going to be into play. And as mentioned, when I'm talking about all the advanced stuff, stats and whatnot, there's a shit ton of them. You've got interceptions, you've got key passes, shots on target, defensive clearances, all that good jazz. And it really reflects who actually is playing well. Like, as I mentioned before, a player like Rodri, a player like Declan Rice. I know he scored a few goals, but you guys kind of get what I mean here. Those midfielders or even like hardworking wingbacks don't get rewarded for their performances. It's only just based on goals. Like there has been so many times where a player's had such a standout performance, but on fantasy sports, especially the FPL app, get fuck all points for it, like getting like 2 points. It's just ridiculous. Like there is more to the game than just scoring and assisting. And I know obviously the goals is what wins you the matches and clean sheets is what prevents you from losing. But at the end of the day, there's so many intricacies and little things on a pitch that equate to winning and contribute to that as well. So Supercoach EPL is going to be really exciting. And if it's anything like AFL, I'm going to be extremely excited for that because AFL proved and Supercoach proved that you don't need to have a lot of goals to really impact the game. It's a lot of possessions, a lot of accuracy. It scales as well. So depending on the time of the game, your points can scale up significantly. So I'm really excited if there is scaling. I'm not sure if there is, but if a player does score, and if you want to account to that, this is where it can be valuable. Scoring in the 90th minute or a key defensive block or interception can scale up your points massively and really help you win your fantasy battles. So again, really excited for that. And yeah, sort of blabbered on again. It's great to blabber on and talk about kind of sporting news as well. Just given that there's so much at the moment. I've been meaning to do emergency huddles, but haven't had the chance to really get on that. And what I'm also been meaning to do is getting more guests. So I'm in the process of finding some guests. If I get one of these guests to come on, I'm extremely excited about, to be honest, because really high profile. Don't really want to talk too much about it, but extremely keen to have that particular person on the podcast if we can get it. If we can get it through, it's really a scheduling issue at the moment as to why we haven't done that episode yet. It's been a long time coming, and a few other guests as well that are quite good guests too. Different sports as well, so something completely different to what I've spoke about on the past as well. So also excited to really talk about that as well. But without further ado, we'll go straight into it. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to have a deep dive into the psychology, it's a bit of hypocrisy, and the high stakes of gambling in modern sports. So talking about the athlete, so as mentioned, the athletes that have been gambling on their own games, and also kind of the effect holistically and overall of sports betting in sport for those that do bet, and also how it affects the league and revenues and all that jazz. So again, what's really happening at the moment is that there's been an influx, maybe not as prevalent because maybe they want to hide stories or people haven't been sort of caught in this, but the last like 2 months, we've had two betting scandals in the NBA, and we've had a history of different betting scandals, starting with in the Premier League, Ivan Toney, who was banned for 8 months, 13 bets on his own team, 7 of them to losses, which is crazy. Could you imagine like your own teammate and you found out that they're all betting on you guys to lose? It's pretty crazy. He had 15 bets to score in 9 matches, so respect that he wants to back himself. And then he had 126 total bets on matches that he could have been involved with. So by that, I'm guessing any match that occurred in the Premier League and maybe the Football Championship as well. But almost over 140 bets, maybe even close to 150 total bets made for Ivan Toney, and he got an 8-month ban, which is quite crazy. We also had Malik Beasley, who's apparently been investigated for some betting scandals as well. Some betting on his own team. It is said that he's had like $600,000 debt, so he's got a bit of financial issues there. Don't really know how when his contract is pretty high, but he's also one that's in that investigation. And then most recently, Terry Rozier, who there was a Mississippi, I think, booking place or the bookies there in Mississippi that saw an influx of bettings on the under when he was at the Charlotte Hornets. And one of the games that was that influx, he basically left the game after 10 minutes with a foot injury. So there's some fishiness going on there. And then also we had the AFL one. And the reason why I want to talk about AFL one, and I'll start with that, was the Jaden Stevenson one, where he put basically like a $36 bet, or a total of $36 bets on 3 multis that were unsuccessful involving Collingwood. And he copped a 22 game, 12 of them suspended, and also a $20,000 fine, which is crazy. And I'll start with Jaden Stevenson. We all know who AFL fans know who he is. He's now a tradie. Unfortunately, didn't really have the success as a footy player due to a lot of off the field stuff such as this. But yeah, he basically got into trouble for that, betting on his own team. And although it was like $36 on a multi, you shouldn't be betting on your own team. And I completely sort of understand that. But the reason why he probably did it was because of the financial issues that have occurred. And no, by no means I'm justifying any of these players as I look into Jaden Stevenson, especially because he doesn't make as much money as the other three. The AFL has a lot of sponsorships, and most of them come from gambling. If not, actually got a fact here that I'm pretty sure, and if I can find it, oh bloody hell, where are you? I had you before. I had to pause to basically find this because I was sounding so stupid. But I got the article. The article is from ABC, so I'll read it out to everyone. Almost 2/3 of all major sporting teams in one Australian state are receiving money from gambling companies. An ABC analysis has found revealing a concerning and toxic reliance on gambling sponsorship and advertising. 7 sporting codes and their domestic clubs, I can't read, were examined for any relationship or commercial partnership with gambling organizations, including casinos. The ABC looked at publicly available information for 74 teams across the NRL, AFL, Rugby Australia, Football Australia, Cricket Australia, Netball Australia, and the NBL. 8 of the 13 teams examined in Queensland were sponsored by gambling companies, and 6 of the strongest commercially viable clubs in the state, the Lions, the Broncos, the Dolphins, Cowboys, Titans, and Suns, all had at least one gambling sponsor. That's pretty crazy. In contrast, only one team in Victoria, the Melbourne Storm, was sponsored by a gambling company, while there were none in South Australia. In New South Wales, several sporting teams have signed up to reclaim the game. A government-established initiative which reduces or removes sports betting from home games and educating games. Okay. Anyway, from that, and this is not counting essentially like Sportsbet, TAB, and all the betting companies actually betting, sponsoring the league itself, because they do that too. That's pretty crazy. And for a player like Jaden Stevenson, who is going to get fined basically $20,000 and essentially banned 12 games for a $36 bet, it is quite unjustified, especially given that they're making millions and millions of dollars off betting companies for their leagues to function. So do you see that kind of the disparity there? And it obviously happens across NBA and EPL as well. But I have less sympathy for those players because they don't make as much money. But this was kind of the same issues in the 90s when Maribel and all those companies were sponsoring. If you're encouraging gambling, and if the league is making so much money from these sponsorships, then how can you not expect players to bet when the league is just generating money? Like, the hypocrisy there is crazy. And yes, there's probably, from what I've heard, there are gambling associates or people that go into these teams now and sort of help and support the players. But in my honest opinion, you're still exposing them massively. Like, and we take away the players. Like myself, for example, I'm someone that has done a lot of sports betting. I do like a good multi here and there, and I have bet on a lot of games. For me, it makes it fun. It's personal, whatever. The ease of access that I have onto an app to be able to look at everyone's stats and being able to bet is just crazy. Like a 2-year-old can literally get on the app and bet. It's that simple. The apps are so sophisticated. Now Sportsbet have literally got pinpoint disposal multis. You have people endorsing it, famous people endorsing it. Dan Gorge is one. Shout out to Dan Gorge, love that guy. But he's one that also has his own multi feeds. So the betting, and there's nothing against him to bet because he's not a player. He can do whatever he wants. But the amount of coverage and how easy it is to bet in Australia and quite frankly around the world, it is crazy. And the fact that the league makes so much money, but simply just ban players as if they're doing something very malicious. Like, yeah, okay, they're cheating on the game, but they're not really. Like, I've seen less bans given for like people getting bashed, for example, or like even for Mason Greenwood and Miles Bridges didn't even get that much of a consequence from the league. They got consequences outside the league and legally, which the justice system does what it needs to do. But in a sporting perspective, didn't get half the punishments that these guys have got. And even for Jonte Porter, who is probably never going to ever play in a league game again. And again, this is not me defending them at all. Like, for someone to put a bet on their own game, they deserve a punishment because they ultimately have control of the outcome. But again, when you have these betting companies there and they're so sophisticated, they make so much money, it's just so easy for everyone to get and do a bet. Why wouldn't you think that these guys wouldn't do it either? It just doesn't make sense. I think the leagues needs to do a better job in sort of kind of choreographing this in a way where there is more education to it, and they kind of limit the sponsorship as well, because you can't be banning people and then making money at the same time. It just doesn't really make sense. Betting is everywhere. The culture is everywhere. Like, even if you're someone that doesn't bet on your own league, you're allowed to bet on a whole nother sport if you want. It's so easy to do that because the access is so there so quickly as well. There's a lot of, obviously, big betting companies around the world, and it just continues to be a big problem. And going on the hypocrisy as well, when I mentioned that, like, people were banned for placing a bet, like for Jaden Stevenson's case, a $36 bet, he gets a ban, but then the teams are getting sponsorships. What do the young athletes see? Like, imagine you're a kid watching the sport and you're seeing your favorite athlete roll up into a game on TV, and there's just a sport betting advertisement there, encouraging you to gamble, encouraging you to really muck around with your finances. And those that are inspiring to be professional as well have that message as a kid to think that's okay. The fans as well, the fans just wanting to bet, lose their money, and there's just no integrity. I just don't think there is a clear line between competition and business as well. They're quick to ban players on doing the action, but then they're also quick to make money as quick as possible and not really care about the ramifications of what that betting can do and how the league can be done. And so quick to judge as well, so quick to really discriminate and really want to punish the players big time, as if they're doing the worst thing possible. Like, yes, they're cheating, and we don't like that. But you're literally making money from the same shit. The only difference is you're not betting on the games yourself. Like Adam Silver, the way that he reacted when Jonte Porter got the ban or found out he was going to be betting was crazy. If it really felt as though he killed someone. So just things that the league need to work on doing. Like, they got rid of the smoking sponsorships. I know Maribel looked really cool, and I mentioned it again before. Maribel looked really cool on shirt sponsors as well. But you don't want to encourage people to do bad things. And gambling is a massive problem, especially in Australia. Like, I just actually read another stat, and I found this stat. 33% of people in Australia in the past 12 months have betted on sport or have gambled on sport. 33%, that's almost 1/3 of the country, which is crazy. And again, those apps, the sponsorships, that's why it's the case. And you can see why there's so many betting problems and people have financial issues in this country, while the leagues end up making so much money. And I'm sure that's across America as well, and across the whole board as well. This is a big issue for mental health, and it kind of affects our values as well, because it becomes more commercialized. And the more you kind of promote gambling as well, and it goes back to me, and now I just sort of thought about this in my head. It goes back to the athletes' player abuse. The more you're promoting your athletes to get abused online as well. Like, we've all been frustrated, and I'll be one to say that when a certain player I bet on fails to hit their line on a score, whether it's a rebound, disposal position, whatever it is, they cost me a chance to win money. The amount of abuse that they get from gambling addicts or people like myself, sporting fans, me not anymore, when I wouldn't say I actually abused them online and messaged them saying you cost my multi, but in saying like I'd be frustrated. But there are people that send death threats to certain athletes because they haven't hit their fucking multis. Like, that's crazy. And why that's the case? Because the app's easy, the sponsorships are there, and they have the reign to do it without any consequence. But as soon as someone bets on themselves, they get the consequence. You see where I'm going in with this hypocrisy and how it affects people as well. You see how if you make sport betting part of a culture, it kind of makes everything worse as well, and it ruins people's livelihoods, especially athletes too. It's crazy. It's not something you can stop. Like, you can't stop people from gambling, but what you can stop is getting a piece of the pie from these gambling companies, the leagues of sport, if you really care about your athletes and your people. And that's sort of the frustrating part of this as well. So I think what leagues should reconsider as I sort of wrap this up, because there's not really much to go on more from this, is that there needs to be more education when it comes to it. So it's good that leagues are bringing in gambling advice people and higher ups to put that in. The messaging has got to be removed, the mixed messaging. You're either one side of the fence or the other. You can't be on both. And you got to build safer spaces for athletes to seek help. If there is gambling issues, it'd be good if that wasn't obviously publicized into the media until, one, the investigation has been finished. And I know there's leaks and rats, but the league's got to do a better job in kind of keeping that more secretive. And if there is that issue, those athletes get help first, rather than them being scrutinized. And until the league sort of stops profiting from the problem, the players are always going to be ones paying the price in the end. So the leagues are going to have a good hard look at themselves. If they really want betting to be their main source of income, then they got to reconsider how they view athletes when they do put bets on games as well. So that's kind of where I draw the line. Again, this is me not saying that betting is right and it should happen. It's me saying that these leagues are making money off the stuff that they're getting upset about. And when players do it, they get upset. So it's been my spill on gambling and the effects that it has on athletes and holistically as a whole. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. Hopefully we can get some guests on this pod again, as I mentioned, and we can talk about more deeper meaning stuff. But it's been your boy Daniel from the Huddle Within podcast, and I will catch you guys next week. Cheers. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Huddle Within podcast. I appreciate you for tuning in and being part of this community where we go beyond the game and into what really matters. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who sees sports just the way that we do. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on my social medias, which will be linked below. Send in your thoughts and even be part of a future episode. Until next time, keep that passion alive, stay in the huddle, and remember, it's always deeper than the game. Cheers.